Well, good morning. Happy Mayday. Uh, well, the weather's changed. Sun's still out, but the temperature's just dropped. There's a westerly blowing. It's got a lot of chill in the air. Still nice, but to sit out in the sun. The birds are happy. Had a bit of rain last night, so everything's starting to come alive again, I guess. Don't have to do any mowing. So, just listening to a little bit of the radio just to see what's going on. Oh yeah, the restrictions have been lifted now in New South Wales. You can now visit your relatives without being questioned. Wow. Okay, well, I suppose it's better than nothing. They open up the beaches. Oh, but you can't sunbake. You have to just move. So you're not allowed to. What is it? Loitering. Anyway, what else? Well, I just drove down to Lismore yesterday, which is about 150 k's away from where I live, Tennerfield. It all looked pretty much business as usual. Even though I went into Aldi and they got the whole Perspex shielding all around the cashier now. It's like, what's wrong with you guys? It's like I'm buying I have my shopping on the belt, but they're fully enclosed in case I hold them up. Whatever. It's just over the top. It's ridiculous. Everywhere. Bunnings the same thing. The entrance they got makeshift wire fences put up so that you walk around like sheep or cattle, through through the pen, so that you don't have a stampede. And then on the ground they have these X's marked. Now I've noticed about the X's, they're all the same shape and the same sort of angle. So obviously somebody must be out there doing the same thing everywhere. It's just, we're getting treated like cattle. Well, that's what vaccine stands for. Vaca is in Romanian cow. So that's where vaccine comes from, the word vaccine, because they used to use of bovine origin. I ain't getting no vaccine, I can assure you of that. They're going to push it all along and they're spending millions of dollars, oh, you give me and push it along. It's Archie, he's just going, oh, Daddy, I want to come out. I had to chase him, he was already down the road. I think he's looking for a girlfriend. He's still got his little jewels hanging off him, so I'm not cutting them off, I can show you. Because that what makes him a male dog. I ain't going to cut his balls off, let me show you. Because even if you do, then they change their temperament and they change who they are, and they're not the same dog, and I don't like to do that. And if God was meant to have it that way, they wouldn't have balls, so they would just fall off after 3 years, and that's it. Okay, same as with humans. Why don't all the guys get the balls cut off? Because after you had children, you don't need it anymore. What do you need it for? We're so cruel to animals, I tell you, the way we treat them. In some ways, and then in other ways where, the animal husbandry is really, really good. I was just talking to Pauline about this yesterday on the way back, driving through the mountains. And I said, it's funny how, we're talking about children being born, small and, because they're, mothers have been drug addicts or alcoholics and then they sort of like how we, other people take care of the child as it grows up. But, I was saying, well, it's funny, like when you have a sow or a cow having, a baby inside, or, how you treat them different. You give them different food, you make sure they don't get stressed and all that sort of stuff. So we actually really look after them. to make sure they don't have a miscarriage. But with humans, we tend to just go, oh yeah, here, I'll give you a needle because you need to have a flu injection while you're pregnant, also your child, or I'll give you some other injection they now give to pregnant women, which they never used to do years ago. My children, when they were born in the 90s, the doctor said, no, we're not, they wouldn't even dare putting any needle in a pregnant woman. But today, just give it off. Whooping cough. Just give it to the mother because then the child won't have it. All these things, and then you wonder when your child comes out and it has no immunity and it starts. It's got to go in an incubator because it didn't form properly. Grow enough, and all that sort of stuff. Then it's an ongoing saga. Throughout their life. Because they're always fickle about things. Archie, stay here, please. Children, you got to keep them. I haven't got my fence up yet, so that's the problem. I'm in the process, but the guy hasn't got back to me. It's the country, Things are a bit slow here. I got my coffee, which I'll enjoy, as usual. Had my water therapy, so for the ones that watch my video. Oh yeah, I like my water therapy. It's just, if you feel off in the morning or whatever, as you know, when you're sleeping, this is when you regenerate and you detoxify, and your liver works over all the toxins that you've put in your body over the day, and it replenishes you. So it's sort of in your system, but you need to get it out as quickly as possible. People always say, I can't drink water. I never drink water. Well, let me tell you that people that don't drink water are highly acidic, and eventually what happens, they end up with cancer of some sort, and then they wonder why, and they go, why me? Because you got to look after yourself. Your body's a temple. It's not don't go abuse it. I mean, we all have our, time where we go and have a drink and, smoke and whatever, just mistreat our body. But, I don't do it every day. And I haven't done it for a long time, and I'm very careful what I drink now and how much I drink. And it's all regulated for myself, for my own health. I don't need government to tell me how I should look after myself. I can assure you that. The best person who knows how to look after myself is me. So that's how people have to approach it. Don't let governments come and tell you should wash your hands every day. Yeah, of course you should. If you go to the toilet and, you got public places where, a lot of people touching things and, and if you're going to go and have a nice meal and use your fingers, of course you should wash your hands. But you don't have to wash it every day. I mean, I watch the Bunnings, all come there pumping the alcohol wipes while they're going in and on the way out, and I'm going, why? You didn't die before. Guy's like 50, 60 years old, and he's just going pumping at his squirts all over his body, and I'm just laughing inside and going, oh my God, how pathetic. You see, doctors tell you all the time, we need interaction with humans to exchange bacteria and viruses. That's how our immune system is always ready for the fight, It's got to be there, it's got to be ready. Like martial arts. If a martial art guy trains and then he doesn't train for month, 2 months, and goes in a competition, he gets his ass kicked, doesn't matter how many hands he has. Because he's too slow, he's not reactive enough, he's not sharp. I mean, athletes, the reason we train is because we want to be sharp on the day, we want to be in our best, form. Not, otherwise everybody could be an athlete, or everybody could just compete and, go, I can run a marathon, but you can't run around the block. Right, okay. So all these things. Now, not sure who else is anybody marching on Mayday? Well, I sort of grew up with Mayday because, as people would know, I was born in Romania. And Mayday was always a marching day for all the factory workers, and they had a big assembly and, march through town, and they had the red flags and, and all the Romanian flags with a little logo and all that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think we didn't have the sickle, because that's more the Russian side of it. the hammer and the sickle. But it sort of was there anyway, but it wasn't on the flag because the Romanian flag had more the landscape and then sort of had a reef of the wheat and all that and all the natural things that Romania has, which maybe a lot of people don't know much about Romania. Romania has a rich history, going way back before Jesus even, in the 200 BC and all that, when the Romans came in. The Romans were the first sort of major invaders into Romania, and the people that lived there were called the Dacis. The Dacis were the, sort of lived along the Danube and all that, and when the Romans came, they had obviously wars against them, but eventually the Romans, like they did with every other country, created little colonies and, sort of states of the Roman Empire, and then they sort of put in their own governors, but people could still live as duchies, but under Roman rule and sort of. But the duchies weren't the type of people that just say, oh, we're just going to take it, and, because they got invaded. So what they did is one of the stories in the histories was it's a garrison, they used to call it anyway. So the Roman just had like a very small garrison there, sort of just like a policing, just like a local police, just making sure that everybody is doing the right things and whatever. But the Dutch then decided they're going to conspire against the Romans and got an army together and slaughtered all these people, the Romans. So anyway, one of the Romans got back to Rome, and then all hell broke loose, because then the Romans said, right, okay, you want war? So they sent really big armies through there and just basically just went and slaughtered everybody in their way and said, right, who's the boss now? And then the Dutch sort of subsided and stayed put, and then sort of eventually with the Roman Empire, the Romans sort of, interacted with the Dutchies, and then I think sort of that's how the Romanians came about, because obviously, if you know, Romania has Roma in it, so, and there's a reason for it, okay? Because Romania wasn't called Romania, as you know. There was Romania was basically 3 or 4 countries. Three really, but they had like Moldova, Wallachia, and then there was also Dobroja, which is the one that sort of is very close to that is on the Black Sea. It's on the other side of the Danube, because the Danube sort of swings around and then separates Romania, and then it sort of goes over the top, and then it goes into a beautiful natural delta, and a lot of people go there fishing. My cousin who lives in Bucharest, he goes fishes there every day, or every year he goes there and has a holiday. So he has one of the local boys, and they go and jump on a little rowboat, and they go into the delta, and they do all the fishing there, and they go, pure nature. They're out there, living in amongst the reeds, so to speak. But he enjoys it. Anyway, so going back, so Wallachia, right? So, and then you have Transylvania. So these are the 3 countries, predominantly what always, was Romania's. Now, obviously, earlier when the Duchy was completely different and the map was different, I can't remember it. I have to go through it again. But I've learned all this at school. I had a very good history teacher, type of guy that can tell you stories that weren't written in the books, because he was sort of like a scholar when it came to history or any teaching. He said that if a teacher comes into your class and has to have notes or uses books to teach, he doesn't know anything, because all that means is that he's just reading out of a book and regurgitating something. So he always believed that when he used to come into class, he had it all up here. Okay, and he used to present his class, like he was very tough, like he would hit you over the head if you didn't know the answer when, Napoleon, got done in Waterloo or whatever. So the thing is, that's what his motto was, if I don't know it, how do I expect my children or my students to know? Because I'm setting an example. And that's the same thing in humanity as we are. If you want to be a good person, you set the example and you show them how to, how to be a good person or how to do good deeds or, look after yourself mentally, physically, all that. This is what you do to your children and other people. And that's why people have massive presentations and, all these people that just, been flying around the world doing all the mass, sort of seminars. Anyway, but he always had that history he was very good with history and geography, and then he did also sort of political science and all that we had to learn as well. And so he used to come into his class and then used to just do point form. Like he would tell the story about the king, the queen, whoever, about the Ottoman Empire, the Huns, the Mongols, whatever. And he used to be able to just put point form on the blackboard. That's when we had blackboards, right, with chalk. And he used to just write it down and just put. Now, I'm the type of guy that I had a very good sort of memory. So I had the ability then to go and I used to do gymnastics. So I used to train every day, 6 days a week. I used to go to school 6 days a week, right? Saturday as well. At Saturday, in my high school, we had 7 o'clock start in the morning on a Saturday. And then sometimes we had to go and work in the fields, late autumn, on a Sunday or, one of the days during the week to help pull the corn out or the strawberries or the potatoes or whatever it may be. And that's communism, okay, just to let you know, because there was no one working the fields and then things were just rotting away. So they used all the children labour and also my parents as well who worked in factories and my cousins and all my friends from school's parents. They all had to assemble and get taken in a bus and then they just take them to the fields and spend like 8 hours, picking fruit or whatever. Anyway, so just so that that's where we're heading if we let the communists and the socialism reign over us. Okay, and when I was 14, everybody in Romania, 14, you had it called a bulletin, which is like an ID book, right? That has a photo, like a passport with a stamp, all your features, blah, blah, what color eyes you have, skin, any markings, the whole lot. And then you had you had pages where every year you had to go to the police station and they had to stamp it. Okay, so when I used to travel with my gymnastics and we stay in a hotel, we always had to have the bulletin. The coach takes it, they go to the hotel, they take them and they store them there, and then when we leave, we get them back. Okay, so that's how it always, that's back in the 1970s, okay. A lot of people may not realise that this has all been happening for quite some time. They're just now doing it. They want to do it in digital format, which they are anyway. You already got a chip in your passport. So, but the passport can, I just got to see where my dog is. Archie! He just runs away. He's a very naughty boy, But I love him. He's just, he's got all this, just see where he is. Archie! Ah, boy. The magpies are around. I don't know if you can see him, but they love, there he is. He's gone across the road. Archie, come back here. Here. Come. He's just, see? He wants to be free. Anyway, so these passports and all that, so all have chips, and obviously, as you know now, all our licenses have got chips in them, and so they get all this data. Anyway, going back to my teacher, so the teacher has always been very good. So when I used to do gymnastics, I didn't have a lot of time to study because, I was tired, I would finish school at 2 o'clock, go home 3 o'clock, had to be in the gym, train to bed at 6 o'clock, then get home 6:30, have dinner, and then I have to, do my lessons, learn whatever I had to learn, because we used to have oral examination the next day sometimes, or have written tests they don't tell you about, etc., etc. So I had the ability to then just go over my notes that he used to put out on the board, which I wrote in my notice book. Archie is cocking his leg. Archie, come on. Look. Here you go, Archie. Going to say hello? Oh, yes. Of course he does. And the thing was that I could just recite everything he said, almost word for word. I even had the ability to use his gestures that he used to use when he used to tell a story. So I never feared him, because a lot of other people feared, because they all go, "Oh my God, I don't know, I don't know this and all." And I said, "No, call me up," and I just was able to basically just say everything he said. So I've always had good notes. Always had, like in Romania was like 10 was the best note. So I always had nines and tens in history and geography. I always knew what everything was, and I also was his little map getter with my cousin. So we were little disciples. So I used to go to the office, to the teacher's office where they used to hang out, and go, "Okay, what map do we need?" And he goes, "Oh, you need from 1720s to 1740s. So we used to go up into the map room and look for it, and then there it is, and then we just bring it and hang it in the classroom, and it was about whatever we were learning. It was just a relevant map. So all history has always been related to maps, because you can then tell the story, and then you show the borders, and then you can explain what happened when they conquered and they took over this, and the capital was moved and so forth. And if you've gone to Europe, you should know all that. That especially, like when the Habsburg, dynasty was running, how they had, they changed the capitals in the kingdoms, or the empires, from Vienna to Budapest to Prague, Bratislava. They all been moved around, so they all been capitals at one stage or another. Anyway, so we learned all these things. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I thought I'd just tell a bit about who I am and what I've sort of done. And I was lucky in Romania. I travelled a lot. It was all paid for. So the socialism in certain ways is very good. So when you do any sport, so if you have children, do sport, dancing, whatever, if they're good, it costs them nothing. Parents pay no money. They fly you, they travel, everything's paid for. The only money I ever got was just spending money, for my mum and dad, which is fine. But I used to go in camp. So I used to go in camp every year. So I used to go to the Black Sea in summer. 2 weeks there. So still did training, but it was more play. But still had to get up in the morning and we'd go run on the beach and run up through sand dunes and play soccer and do push-ups and also jumps and all that stretching. And because, we were professional athletes, really. We trained 6 days a week. Started when I was 5, so by the time I was 7 years old, I was probably training 4 times a week already. And by the time I was 8, 9, I was doing 6 days a week. On top of school, of course. So my childhood was always sort of preoccupied with training. And then when I had holidays, I used to train twice, because my coach said, "Oh, you got to have, we'll have what they call cantonament, which is sort of like camp in Romanian." So we had morning training, then go home, eat, sleep, and sometimes we even stayed in. So we ate together in a hotel restaurant, so we sort of worked as a team. So I did all that, and then when I travelled out of my city, and because from Lugos, where I was spent most of my youth, I then went to Euphoria Nord, also with my parents sometimes, quite regularly, plus the gymnastics. So I used to go twice to the Black Sea, and that's about 800 k's on the opposite side. So it's like, you jump on a train, and like when I explained to people about how trains were, there were no platforms, and the first step is about, like 600-700 millimeters up or 60 centimeters up, and the train, when it comes, it was delayed, and then it wasn't staying in town, for very long, and people were still jumping on the train. The train just started moving off. It happened often when people fell and bloody got killed, run over by a train. And then, you jump on the train and then you got your tickets and then you walk in there and it's all double sold. People already sitting in your seat and you go, well, what are you doing? Oh, no, there's my ticket, and then you have all these Romanian arguments. And, I bought this. And, anyway, you have to experience it. This is why I'm so different, because my youth it was good, but also was a lot of battle in many ways. And I also listened to what my parents were saying and my uncle, and like I've explained this video before about when they wanted to demonstrate against the communists in Bucharest. Oh, and there the people were doing, hunger strike and all sorts of stuff to trying to get passports to leave Romania. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And then there was charlatans out there who said, "Oh, I can get you the papers, but you got to give me 20 grand." And then they just don't do it. They just rip off people. No, my parents lost about, I think, 40,000 lei, which is about a year's salary, by giving this guy money. They were supposed to have all these connections. Nothing happened, he didn't, he just bullshitted. So there's charlatans everywhere. It's the same thing now, it's like the government's controlling everything. There's charlatans already coming out of the woodworks, ripping of people off, It's just human nature, opportunists come out and they attack the vulnerable, the ones that it's like you constantly get emails or messages. Open up this link. They don't open up any links. They're all phishing experiments to trying to get into your system and then trying to siphon any money that you have in your account or passwords or whatever. Anyway. Yeah, so Romania, if you ever get an opportunity, it's a beautiful place. It's full of history. Oh my God, the monasteries, the mountains, Romania's got one of the biggest caves in Europe. I mean, there's some caves that they haven't even got to the other end yet. And they're like 20 k's long. Well, as you know, that Prince Charles has a residence in Romania, in Transylvania, and apparently he has he's actually part Romanian, who's related to Vlad Țepeș, Vlad the Impaler. I mean, I don't know, but this is what they say. I haven't really looked into it, but if that's the case, whatever. Well, the royals were all intermarried, so the bloodlines are all crisscrossed, because that's what they did. All the history. So all the Habsburgers, and then you got the guys from Germany, and then the Russians and the Greeks, and Spanish, and all they all sort of, because they see what happened. They realized that going to war against kings against king, and losing all these people, and costing them a lot of money. It was better to marry into each other, and then you can claim part of their land anyway for nothing, just giving a daughter or the son or whatever. So this is the story, So it's interesting. Now I also, going back to history now, someone just said this morning, like some doctor at Victoria, bagged the Captain Cook. She didn't even know her facts. She's a medical doctor, comes out and works for the government, obviously, in the Victorian government. And just bags him and does misinformation about Captain Cook. That he was an invader and he came and slaughtered people or whatever. He did none of that. Most people on he was so what he was, like an ant farm. So the queen sits in the nest, and then you have your workers, but then you have your explorers. So your little explorers go out way out of the nest and they look for food, right? And then they come back, communicate to the queen and all the other soldiers and say, okay, there's food over there. And then they bring the army, and then they eventually come in and they, if they found a carcass or whatever, then they feed on that, and then that's how they establish the colony. Well, humans not very similar in behavior. So when the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Greeks, the Romans, the British, they all did it, the Chinese dynasties, the Japanese, they all did it the same way. They send out an exploration team to find new land, to expand, to either look for resources, i.e. gold, silver, tin, whatever, and food, so that if they find it, they can then establish a new colony, and then they just bring it over. And that's what they did, and that's what Captain Cook did. I mean, he came over through Papua New Guinea, and he had all the botanists, and they learned, they had all the specimen about all the different plants they've never seen, and insects and all that sort of stuff. Because when he came back, came here, and then he went back, that's when all the other stuff came, like Governor Macquarie and all the different people that came over to, establish the colony. But many people don't even know the Dutch were here before. New Holland, that's all of Western Australia. The only reason they didn't come across is because when they landed there, and they went about 200, 300 k's inland going east, all they saw is desert, and they go, well, we just don't know where the end is, and we haven't got enough supply. So they just gave up, and they just said, oh, well, that will do. And then they stayed there, and then obviously they had their issues, and they had all the different mutinies and all that. Books been written about that, and that's why in Western Australia the only Aborigines with blonde hair are in Western Australia, because they're all mixed with the Dutch. That's just a stray gene. Anyway, it's all over. But Romania is beautiful. I mean, Pauline, I had the opportunity to take Pauline there and show her how beautiful it is. I went back into the place where I was born, called Baile Herculane, which is a natural spring full of sulfur and all magnesium, and it's very good for, heart conditions and rheumatism and whatever. And people used to get... See, Romania's full of... There's got about 20... I think there's 28 natural spring resorts that under communism were well established, and they used them a lot. And so when you used to work in a factory, and then say you start getting achy joints, or you have problem breathing or whatever, so you go and see the doctor, and then he refers you, and then they send you, say, okay, Werner, you look like you need treatment, you're going to that place because that's the best. So they used to send you there for 2 weeks, and you get what they call tratament. So my dad used to have a bad back, so he used to always send him to this place called Terkagil in the Black Sea, where it had all the black mud. It's very salty. It's a little salty lake. You can't open your eyes there. If that water gets in your eyes, oh boy, does it sting. So it's like, it's nudist. So you go there, the men are separated from the women. However, there's a train line running across over the top. So when I used to go with my gymnastics friends further on, we used to go there and we go, oh, the nudist colony's coming up. So we used to all run to the windows, like boys would, and look out for the naked women, Don't worry about the men, but it's the women that we were. It's just funny, I mean, you didn't stop. You just, drove through. But it's weird because it's just above. You can actually see the whole colony, where people have the black mud all over their bodies, and you just so they got a big trough, and you just rub it on, and it goes like mud and hard. So you lie in the sun there, you don't get sunburn at all. You can put it all. People used to put it all over the hair, and just keep away from the eyes and the mouth. And they should stay there for about an hour and a half like that. And they used to play backgammon or chess or whatever. The guys, just. And then they go and the only way you could get it off, going back into the lake called Tekrigil, which is a Turkish name, which I think means salty lake. I had looked up before, but that's what it means. Anyway, so that's what we used to do, and you could float there. It's just like, I don't think anything hardly lived in there because it was that salty, but it was very, very good. And my dad he had a stiff back, so he used to suffer from that, and they used to get a massage there as well. And the guys that used to do massages, it was really weird. They were almost, the guy that used to do my dad, he was like half blind, like his eye, I think he was virtually blind, that used to massage. But he was very good, and they used to use, unfortunately, back then, talcum powder to massage it instead of oil, but that's what it was. So anyway, I used to go with my dad, and my mum used to be on the other side. There was a fence. So, and then when my relatives came from Germany, they used to come down there as well, and my grandfather and all that. It was, it's called Efuri and Nod, and the place is called Tekergil. So it's a bit away from it. You have to sort of jump on a bus or whatever. Anyway, but I used to do that, and then I used to go and other camp further down, closer to Bulgarian border. And I used to camp there with all my other gym mates from other clubs around Romania. and girls as well. So this is where you learn to interact as a child with girls. We had dances and all that sort of stuff. Maybe get lucky, get the first kiss, whatever. Which I did. But I was like 10 years old, 11 years old. Well, in 1976, after the Olympics, Nadia came there as well, because her club was there. And I remember we couldn't get close to her because it was all like all this rigmarole. Anyway, but yeah. So, but we met the girls that trained with her, younger ones that knew, obviously, Nadia, because they trained in the same gym. Because they train in a different place to all the boys, at a place called Donetsk. When the coach Bella Caroli, he was the head coach, obviously, and then he went to America. And so did Nadia and all the other girls, basically. They now live there. But a lot of people don't know Bella Caroli was never a gymnast, right? He was a European handball player. And he just learned about gymnastics, and then he just studied and learned. And I always said, if you can coach any sport, you can coach any sport. It's just a matter of getting knowledge. And so I can go and most probably coach rugby league or AFL. There's enough info out there. I can sit there, watch the tactics. I also have my own imaginations of how I would want to see things run, whatever. It's not rocket science. Don't ever think it's rocket science. It's not. It's like a teacher. If you're a good teacher, you can teach any subject. Obviously you can't teach if you're not a mathematician. Because you need to know formula, or a chemist. But general things, like history and literature and poems and geography. You can learn all that. And it's not specific. That's all I'm saying. And, like teaching anything specific these days, all the coaches got specific coaches that do all the work. You got defensive coach, kicking coach, all sorts of coaches, Then they got the physio, and then they got the masseurs, the strappers, the whole team. Everybody's got a little job, compartmentalized along the way. Yeah, so anyway, so Romania, that's where we had all these places. Plus you got the mountains, and then you got, oh man, people have no idea. Look, Romania was trying to be conquered for the last 1,000 years by all different races and all different empires. Some have succeeded and some haven't. So we have three main kings that were sort of notable in our history. Was Stefan cel Mare, which is Stefan the Great. He was the boss. He was the king from Moldova. Then got Mircea the Old, right? That's from Wallachia. And there was another one called Mihai Viteazu. Mihai means Michael, the what do you call it? Not proud. It just escapes me now. And then obviously after that you had Vlad Țepeș and all that. And Vlad Țepeș is the first guy that united all the three kingdoms into one to fight the Ottoman Empire. And he fought them together, and he was outnumbered, but because they were organized and all that, they could defeat. And then obviously that's when he started impaling the bastards to make sure to let them know who's boss. But money corrupts everything. And then he himself got impaled because he got betrayed by his own people, because they went against him, and they did some deals with the Ottoman Empire a few years later. Because he wasn't in reign for very long, he was only in reign for, 5 years at the most. But he's noted for a long time, anyway. So if this lockdown stops and all that, next thing on your agenda should be Romania. It's a beautiful country. So it's got lakes, mountains, valleys, forests, lots of natural springs, natural spring water out of ground that you can drink straight away, mineral water. Mineral water was a big thing when people used to have surgeries. Doctors used to prescribe straight away, say for the next 2 weeks, this is the only water you drink, because it had all the minerals in it. Because minerals are more important than vitamins. Because minerals we can't produce. We have to get it externally. vitamins we can create in our own body. As you know, vitamin D and other sort of vitamins. I'm not sure which other ones, but there is some other ones. Anyway, but minerals are more important, because if you have no minerals, then your vitamins can't be absorbed. So it just correlates. They actually work hand in hand. It's very important. That's why I always say, drink good water, spend time in the sun, trying to get fresh air. If you can't go at altitude, go to the ocean, because at least it's ozone free and all that, and it's just, it's good for your lungs and all that. I mean, I don't have to tell you. You've been alive long enough to know all that stuff. So, other than that, Mayday it is. I just hope there's not many Mayday calls, hey? Yes, it's one word you don't really want to hear when you're at sea. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Look, this is part of my therapy, talking to people indirectly, letting them know who I am. I'm not some nutcase who thinks that it's everything a conspiracy. It's not. I just sometimes see it as it is, and I just go, well, I've experienced all this before, and I've seen it. And I know where it's heading, and I'm just warning you, unless you stop and start living your life back the way it was and trying to fight. Sometimes you have to fight. You can't just sit back and go, oh, she'll be right, mate. No, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be all the same. See, this is when you're most vulnerable. This is when they can influence you, and they can say, oh, don't worry, you don't need to think. We'll do all the thinking for you, and we're going to give you all the food you need and all that. I mean, now you've seen about the food, don't you? That's been deleted off YouTube. When people say there's a shortage, they're shutting down all these YouTube just go, oh, it's against the community, bloody, fear-mongering. Bullshit, it's the truth. Tyson Food in America has come out and they're shutting down all the meat works. All the farmers are just turning over the crop back into the ground because no one's there to pick it. There's the rule of what is it? The rule of 5. So you can survive 5 hours in the midday sun. You can survive 5 minutes without air. You can survive 5 days without water. And what's the other one? And then 5 weeks without food. And if you don't cover any of those things, you're gone. This is the rule of 5. This is what they teach all the special forces and all that when they go out. When they go on doing their little excursions, they need to cover all those things. So you got to make sure you be able to put cover over you. So it's like in the desert. If you're stuck there, in midday sun, 55 degrees. If you have no cover, you're dead. You don't matter how much water you drink, you'll just sweat it all out. So you need to always have something so you can create shade, because there's no freaking trees in the desert, is there? Well, cactus, but not everywhere. So these are the rules you got to start applying and start thinking. If we don't have those 5 rules, we're in deep shit. Anyway, I'm just about calling it quits. Spent enough time here. Enjoy your beautiful first day of May, first day of sort of winter, if you want to call it, or spring, whatever, in northern territory, northern hemisphere. Well, spring is sort of like already started, but they're already looking towards summer. All right, I wish you all the best for today, and hopefully to catch up again next time.